Hey, how's it going? So recently I've been getting a lot of questions about the wireless Wi-Fi RNet dongle. So I wanted to make a quick video, kind of explain a few things with this, and try to help you decide if you're trying to find or buy an RNet programmer, if you should spend the extra money on one of these versus the regular wired dongle, which I'm realizing now I probably should have grabbed. Hang on a second. Here we go. This is the traditional wired USB one versus the new Wi-Fi dongle. My goal here is to help you decide which one you should buy. These are always going to be less expensive, though they are getting harder to find at this point. Right now, the only place I've reliably seen these for sale is on Sunrise Medical. And last week, I think they were around $600, $620, something like that. Or you can waste like another $100 if you go to that one website that sells power soccer equipment. And this one, I believe I paid $650 for, but the price has gone up on these again as well. In short, though, deciding between these two versions really comes down to what your end goal or your use case is. If you just want to program RNet chairs, do it easily. You're not concerned with any sort of OEM access settings, you know, things like turning off break detect fault, changing motor ohm compensation, or some other OEM level stuff. This thing will work fine. And the cool thing with this is it has a built-in web server, and obviously it's Wi-Fi. All of the programming software is housed on this device. So you don't need to hook it up to the chair, run a long USB cable to it, and you can actually make the changes somewhat live and run around in the chair at the same time. So handy stuff with Wi-Fi and not having to be tethered with wires. You can also upload pre-configured files to your chair. We're going to plug this in here in a little bit, and I'll kind of show you some basics. Wheelchair Ghost actually made a video about this thing a while back that goes into a little more detail as far as operating it and whatnot, but I'm going to link that down below in the video description. If you're working on custom projects, though, and you need OEM access, you're building something where you're going to put on aftermarket motors, you want to really get in there and change a bunch of stuff that's at the OEM level, you got to have one of these. There just really isn't a way around it. I have not found a way with the new Wi-Fi one to gain OEM access. This one, there is a workaround. This is a dealer level RNet USB dongle, and I've got a guide published on my website on how to gain OEM access using, you know, a couple of little workarounds. But the cool thing with this one is even though it's dealer level, you can plug it into a chair and have it output an OEM file that you can edit later. This one, I have not found a way to do that. So in my book, for my use case, this thing immediately becomes useless. But I know a number of people that have these and they work well for what they're doing. If you're just making basic adjustments on a lot of chairs, this thing's really cool. Like I said, I don't remember if I said it's got file storage built into, and there's a couple other neat features where you can generate a printable PDF of all the settings of the chair it's plugged into. The other reason I bought this thing originally, which turned out not to be true yet, this was on the PG Drive's compatibility list for programmers that will work with new Permobil Power Platform chairs. There was a lot of letter P's. Permobil claimed originally, in the beginning, that they hadn't had time yet to set up their new chairs with the ability to be programmed using an external dongle. Right now, none of those chairs will respond to any dongle if you plug it in. I heard some rumors that they might work with an OEM dongle, but that's been tried by people I know, and it doesn't work. Before I recorded this, I was trying to find the documentation that listed this as Power Platform's programmer, but since it's been taken down, and I only saw it in passing, and I wasn't in a spot where I could actually save it, so take that with a grain of salt. We're working on a lot of assumptions and, you know, rumors here, as it is with the wheelchair industry. And I do have contacts with a number of people that actually know what they're talking about. But it's looking like, at this point, that Permobil is just going to stick with the quick config app. Use your cell phone. You have to have access to the system. Everything is logged. And I don't get the feeling at this point that they're going to add in support for external programmers, which is a shame. But yeah. So while I did spend the money on this and making payments on it, but it was nice to have and figure out how it works. But for my use case, not super handy. I did update the firmware on it yesterday. There was a new update last month that came out, and I did try plugging it into another power platform chair and nothing happened. But anyways, again, just depends on your use case. This is far more useful if you're doing custom projects and you need to really get in there and change any settings on the chair. This is akin to onboard programming. There's a couple extra features, but this basically can't do much more than onboard programming can on a chair through the joystick directly. Anyways, I've got a chair here. I'm going to plug this in and kind of show you a few of the basics, or some of the basics, and we'll go from there. Here's our test subject. This is a Permobil C300 that I have modified quite a bit. And this is basically just like the other dongle, where you can plug it in directly. If you happen to have a wire hanging off, like I do on this one, you can just plug this straight in, get access that way, then your USB cable goes out. Or, in majority of cases, you're not going to have one of these extra cables here. You can unplug your joystick, then you plug the cable through the dongle, plug this in like that, and now it'll power up and you get access that way. So it is kind of nice. It's just like this one in the sense that you can plug it in either way. I'll talk more about this XLR port in a few minutes, but that doesn't seem to do anything at this point. But let's power the chair on. It does take this thing a few minutes to boot up. You're going to see a bunch of different blinking lights here. The red one's going solid, and then I believe the blue one will go solid also once that has completely booted up and you can connect to it via Wi-Fi. We're going to go ahead and find the available network here. Now, if you look at the front of the device and also the box that it came in, there's a little sticker on there, and it's going to have an SSID and a password for the Wi-Fi network. Now, I've actually changed it on mine just because I'm weird like that. So this one here called Thingy Dealy is actually the Wi-Fi dongle. So we'll connect to that. Windows be doing Windows things. Couldn't connect to this network. Oh, you know what happened? I think my computer in the other room is connected to it. Hang on. You can only have one device connected to it at a time. So I'm actually kind of glad this happened. Let me go disconnect from that other computer real quick. Okay, we figured it out. There was, I've got a bunch of other devices, and apparently they sync their Wi-Fi passwords. So a bunch of stuff in here was trying to connect to that at once. But if we look here, you can see Thingy Dealy, connected, no internet. Now, you may get weird warnings from Windows or other things about there not being internet, especially if you're using an Android phone. So you may have to pop up and say, continue using Wi-Fi or something to that effect. But now that we're logged in, let's open up an browser window. And if you look at the front of the box it came in, or the sticker that's on the Wi-Fi dongle, it'll give you a website address. If MDNS is working correctly, you should be able to just go to powerchair.net. And it doesn't work on my machine. So we're going to have to go back into our wireless settings and figure out the IP address that this thing is, which in this case, if we look here, it is a 192.168.8 network. So in this case, it's going to be 192.168.8.1. I think that's the same on all of them, but we'll just copy that and paste that into our browser. My network setup here is a little bit weird, the way the MDNS stuff works, so it's not surprising that didn't work. But this should bring up the little web server that thing's hosting, and we'll accept the terms of death and destruction. And then I guess we're just dumped on this page. I thought there would be something else. Hang on here, let me refresh this. Okay, so if we go in here, we can hit read from controller. All of your functions are here on the left. It's a little counterintuitive, but the cool thing with this is it has the manual built in, and that'll pull up a PDF so you can read all that. We're going to go here, hit read from controller, and it's connecting to the C300 over here. You can see there, both of the lights on it are still solid. They'll remain that way. But it's going to pull the program over and display everything for us. Now, the one cool thing with this that I actually learned from Wheelchair Ghost video is if you go up here to File and then PDF. After we've read from the controller, it's going to generate a PDF of all the current settings on this, which is really cool. Then you can like print that out and do something with it later. Insecure download blocked. Yeah, here we go. This is everything on this chair and how it's set up in multiple pages. Let's see, what do we have here? Oh, interesting. So this is actually, I just learned this. This is actually an OEM output. Interesting. Because the key code entry and some of this other stuff would not be visible if it was just dealer level. Yeah, here we got brake disconnected alarm. We've got the voltage for the lights, which, by the way, on a Permobile, adjusting the light output voltage does not work the way you think it should. Maximum rated speed, max displayed speed. Okay, so that's really interesting. It outputs an OEM file. So can we, hang on here. Let's go save as. Please enter a file name of file. Actually here, well, D300, 8. I usually like to name files in a way so that I can find them later. Then management. One way you can tell if it's an OEM file or not is by the size of the file. Okay, so files that are like 2 to 4K are going to be dealer level. If they're 8K or larger, kilobytes that is, that's going to be an OEM file, typically. That is interesting that it is able to access the OEM settings. I wonder if there's a way to leverage that. Yeah, we've even got some Permobile specific stuff here for setting controller personalities. I obviously wouldn't mess with this stuff, but if you want to change the language of your chair, you can do that. Again, don't mess with the ESP settings on older Permobiles. I'm definitely getting sidetracked here. But anyways, if we could get this to save an OEM level file on here, we could download that, use the workaround to edit it, and then upload it back up. But if you do already have, sorry, I'm kind of going down the rabbit trail here, but the way the workaround works is you have to get the chair to output an OEM level file. Then you can open it in an OEM editor, make your changes, and upload it. You cannot use a dealer level file that's output from the chair and make OEM changes. Those settings are completely missing from the file. So you have to get your programmer to spit out an OEM level file. Then you can edit it offline with your OEM software. Then upload it back to the chair with anything else. Now, this will allow you to use its storage on the Wi-Fi dongle to upload a file that is OEM level and then copy it to the chair. You just can't get the Wi-Fi dongle to give you one of those files to play around with. But again, super interesting that it does have the ability to at least read the parameters, so that's kind of cool. Oh, this is always confusing every time I want to mess with it. I think you have to use the back arrow. Yeah, you have to use the back arrow. And then you can get back to the main page. Okay, so this is all of our basics here. This is everything that you can access essentially from onboard programming. There are a few different things you can change here. Like seating, Permobile, don't mess with the seating settings. Like this may be somewhat compatible, but I still don't trust it. Permobile's ICS module is spoofing an RNet seating module. But the main thing you want is probably profiles and modes. You can go in here. Give your profiles and modes different names, change their settings. And then speeds is also another thing that most people are going to want to mess with. And you can go in here and adjust all of your rates and speeds and everything. Controls. Yeah, it looks like we've got some things like momentary screens. Actually, I'm curious now. Let's use the search function on this. Search brake. Brake disconnected alarm. This is an OEM setting. Okay, I'm learning stuff. Let's try something else. Let's do ohm. No. Motor. Okay. Actually, is brake fault detect OEM or not? Doing some more screwing around here, I'm starting to become confused. While a lot of these settings were not available in the list, if I do a manual search for them, they tend to show up. Oh. Yeah, we can't get to the motor voltage. Hang on, what is an actual setting that I know is OEM only? Okay, well, as it turns out, this Wi-Fi dongle can access a few more settings over what onboard programming can on your joystick, but there's still some OEM stuff that's missing. Anyways, apparently if you're trying to find a setting and you know what the search term is, just go in here and do it that way. All right, we're kind of getting off the rails here, but we've got things like steering correction, and if you hover over the little info button here, it tells you what each of the options do. You want to be careful with these. Again, if you're just trying to change specific settings, go ahead and change those. Don't go in here and screw around. Don't see what there is to see and start modifying stuff. That's how you screw up your chair. Looks like if we've got Bluetooth enabled, we can set up our 2 mouse controls or 2 switch controls, aka iDevices. We've got some settings for Omnis here. Other modules, there are some things baked in here, like Amilor has a few options. We've got Permobile ESP stuff. Again, don't mess with that. Gyro module, same there. That would be on different brands of RNet chairs. We got the input-output modules. So, anyways. You click on the big R on the top, and that takes you back to the home page. All right, we're learning stuff. But then you go in here too. You can go into diagnostics. You can view any error logs that may be there. System logs. There's always a bunch of random logs on Permobile chairs that don't mean anything. These will pop up in the My Permobile app sometimes. Like a lot of this stuff here. I actually do have a connection, bad cable error on that chair. But this stuff doesn't necessarily mean anything when you see it like gone to sleep charging, pull along. Anyways, that's a basic look at the interface there and some of the basic settings you can change. I think for most people that are not really getting into modifying and swapping out to different motors and changing motor driver settings and all that stuff, I think this Wi-Fi dongle is probably fine for them. Okay, holy crap, I was wrong. Turns out you can use the Wi-Fi dongle to enable onboard programming. Check it out. We're connected here, right? So this search box here is your magic tool. Get it connected to the chair, and you got to read from controller, let it do that whole thing. Go in here and type in the letters OBP, Oscar Bravo Papa. Hit enter, and it's going to take you down to OBP keyboard entry, or key code entry, which apparently is under controls and global. Then all you do is go down here where it says this, and sets the method of onboard programming. And you can change this to yes or no. I'm going to turn it off just to check and make sure it's actually working. I'm going to hit the button right to controller. And it should make this change live in theory. Okay. Now I'm going to go over here and test it out on this chair. Sure enough, it disabled onboard programming. Let's go ahead and turn it back on. We're going to right to chair again. Now that is a happy surprise. I was editing the video and I thought to myself, wait a minute, we better actually try this. All right, back to the video. Let's see if we can look up prices on this stuff. I never remember the website address, so I just go to my site and I've got a link to Sunrise Medical, to a random chair. Quickie Q700, sure. And if we open one of these, RNet and VR2, there we go. We've got the, by the way, do not buy the software. I don't know why they're charging $781 for software that is free, pretty much on most wheelchair manufacturer websites that are RNet. But yeah, here we go. The 108531 dealer level dongle. That's this guy here, the USB RNet one. Currently $609. Type wireless programmer, pick something RNet. Then we have PGD wireless programmer. It got cheaper. Maybe the $650 was with my financing and shipping fees. That could have been it. So it's $581 versus $609. Huh. Well then, it looks like at the moment this is a little bit cheaper. It's still an obscene amount of money for a wireless programmer, and it comes with a micro USB cable and this sort of hard-sided soft case, as it were. It's got a connection guide and everything. Anyways, so all those prices are going to change over time. Another nice thing about the Wi-Fi programming dongle, though, is you can get over-the-air updates for it or download new firmware. So it's PowerShare, I think, -manager. Okay, so it's PowerShare-manager.com. If you look at the documentation, it'll give you a website that does not have the hyphen in it. So if you go to that, that won't work. But it's PowerShare-manager.com. And you can go in here. You can register your Wi-Fi dongle. I'm not sure about registration. I don't think any of this is actually verified. They want you to fill in your name and organization and all that. I just kind of filled in some random info on mine. And I hit register, and immediately I got a link back in my email with an account. And they just give you a password. You can't choose your own. Make sure you check your spam folder, though. Anytime I've gotten emails from this site, it goes directly into my spam folder. But anyways, you can register a dongle there. You can do upgrades. You have to log in to do that. There we go. This is an account I've logged in with. The weird thing is, it always wants you to add the dongle. Once you register your dongle, it doesn't show up in here, which is kind of confusing. But after you've created an account, you can go to dongle upgrades, and then it tells you here, latest version 1.36, and you can download that version. But if you need instructions on actually upgrading it, go into the actual Wi-Fi dongles web server, go to manual, and then this document will tell you how to do the upgrades and everything. Here we go, updating the dongle, page 25. And it tells you can do it with a wired connection or via Wi-Fi. The web server will allow you to upload files to it wirelessly, but just follow the documentation. They explain how to do that. Now I have to try and find a micro USB cable. Ugh. Ah, here's one. So I want to show you here the file management real quick. We've got a micro USB port on the side of this thing, and we can plug this into our computer, and it will mount as a flash drive. Takes a minute for that to happen. Windows noises. And as you can see, we have a 255 megabyte drive that has appeared. And if we go in here, you can see here's our RNet file that we created earlier. And 4 kilobytes. You can see there. That's an easy way I've found to tell if it's a dealer level or an OEM level file. Let's switch back to the proper microphone here. Now here's a few files that I've set up. These are OEM levels, so you can see we've got 8 kilobytes there as opposed to the 4 kilobytes. And in some cases they may be 7 kilobytes as well. But yeah, if it's 7 or 8, that's OEM. If it's 2, 3, or 4, that's dealer level. But with this plugged into the computer, we can copy this file off of here. Say I want to save it on this computer, do something else with it. I can make the changes. I can put it back on here. Then when we reconnect to it, we can upload that to the chair through the web interface. So kind of some handy stuff. And we've got, about, was it 250 megabytes of space? So that'll hold quite a bit of files. So if you're working with a bunch of different people's chairs, I have a big folder and I name all the different chairs with all of the different parameters and everything. And I always save the file name, whether it's OEM versus regular. And then sometimes I'll put the date in there as well. But this whole massive collection I have of wheelchair firmware and settings files is less than a megabyte. And this is easily a few hundred saves off of a bunch of different chairs. We kind of got up into the weeds there a little bit, but as it turns out, this device is currently $50, $60 cheaper than the actual RNet dongle. And for ease of use and not plugging in cables and just adjusting basic settings, this thing's pretty cool. It is a little confusing to get used to this if you're used to the RNet software that these USB ones use. But let's be honest, if you're messing around with these things and buying them, you're probably already a little bit tech-minded and you'll figure out your way to get through it. But click the RNet logo on the top left when you're trying to go back. I think I figured that out last time I was doing it and then I forgot. But yeah, the interface is a little strange, but it's cool because you don't need to worry about maintaining the software and keeping it with you like you do on this thing. Now, as far as the XLR port goes on this thing, I'm just looking at the documentation that's built into it. It says that the XLR port is for VR2 and new VSI. They're calling it Nutric, but yeah, that's just a XLR connector. I don't have any VR2 chairs here, actually. Well, not here. I think the chair that I've got the 5 kilowatt generator mounted to, I think that might be a VR2 chair base. I'm gonna have to check that out. It's not gonna be soon, but if I do check that out, I will pin a comment or put something in the description of this video. The weird thing is, though, I've plugged this in with the XLR port to a bunch of different chairs. The dongle does not power on. Actually, here, let's just read the directions. With a cursory glance at the documentation here, this image does show VR2, but it doesn't talk about it anywhere. Actually, here, let's do a Control F. Oh, we can't. We have to download this. Hang on. Download. Help. Yeah, we know it's unsafe. Whatever. Open. Control F. VR2. It's not listed anywhere in the document in text form. Wait, is this searchable? Let's search for the letter E. Okay, yeah, 2,500. Okay, just making sure it was searchable. But this right here is the only spot that it refers to using that XLR connector on it. But it doesn't power up when you plug it in. All XLR ports on wheelchairs have the same pin arrangement. Two of them, there's one battery plus, there's one battery minus, and there's a third one, which is typically used for inhibit on, when you plug in the charger so the power chair won't drive while it's plugged in. In the case of Dynamic DX2, for example, that third pin is used for bidirectional serial communication. I'm assuming VR2 is similar, but I don't know what it does. I've looked inside of it. It does have all three pins connected. Like, I've actually taken this thing apart before. If I remember, I'll link to the live stream where I did that down below. But I'm assuming if this is compatible, you would have to power it via the micro USB cable, then plug it into the chair. But yeah, now I'm really curious. I'm going to put this on my list of things. Next time I'm out of the shop and I'm near the generator power chair base, which is a Quickie Pulse 6, I believe. I'm pretty sure it's VR2. I'm going to have to try that out. But yeah, I don't get it. This is the only spot it's referenced. And this is kind of similar to where I ran across the mention of this thing working with Power Platform. It was something just fleeting like this. I don't know if I saw it on my phone. I remember actually reading it, but I can't find it anywhere. I've looked through all my computers, the history on everything. But like we were talking about earlier on, I'm pretty sure at this point, Permobil is just going to kind of forego any sort of physical programmers, and you get what you get and you don't get upset sort of thing. Good times. But don't expect to use this XLR port with anything. When you plug it in, the thing won't even power up. So just pretend that's not even there. That leads us back to the original question from the beginning. If you're going to spend $600 on an RNet wheelchair programmer, which one should you buy? Well, I can only tell you from my experience. We've kind of gone over some of the stuff this can do. When I need to program a chair and I'm like, oh crap, where's my dongle? I need to change this setting. I have never once run to this thing and grabbed it. I've only been screwing around with this and playing with it. In my use case, the way I have my workflow and everything set up, I've already got the laptop. The laptop has all of the software and backup and firmware files that I need. And I'm going to be screwing around anyways, and I'm going to be buzzing around the chair with a laptop. So for me, having a USB cable connected from this to my laptop, it works. That's what I do. But the cool thing with this, you could use a tablet, even a phone if you want, and you could just carry this and the phone that you've already got in your pocket, and it'll work. In my use case, though, like I said earlier, I'm usually doing a lot of OEM editing and changing of things like that. So if I personally had to choose between one of these, it would definitely be the RNet USB dongle. Apparently, it's a tiny bit more expensive right now. If you're not aware, on eBay, you can set up automatic recurring searches. I have a bunch of standing searches for like bounder wheelchair parts, different control modules, these things. It is a waiting game, though. I have not seen these pop up on eBay nearly as much recently, but sometimes there'll be a whole bunch of them on there. They may be really expensive. This one, for example, my friend got years ago. He bought a set of motors and a controller, and this happened to come with it because the seller didn't know what it was. So he was buying motors and a joystick and a controller. I think it was like $500, and it came with this. So just this was worth that. I've seen them anywhere though from like $250 to $800 on eBay. So if you don't need one right now, it's kind of a waiting game. Just keep searching. Maybe you'll find one, maybe you won't. You can go with Sunrise Medical, and you can buy either one of these directly through them. And, you know, you don't have to lie or spoof your way through that. They just sell parts to people, so that's an option. In theory, you could probably buy either one of these things through a DME. Like Permobil, for example, has these programmers on their order forms, but the DMEs won't always get them correctly or send you the right one, which, come to think of it, Kelly, How I Roll, he's got a YouTube channel as well, which I'll link below. He tried to get one of these things, and I think it took 2 or 3 or 4 attempts. He kept buying the Wi-Fi one. It was early on, and this one kept showing up. So if you go through somewhere like Sunrise Medical, and you can see exactly what you're buying, you're good to go. He was trying to go through his DME, and then I think he tried a different one or something like that, and information was lost in translation, and he kept getting the wrong one delivered. So anyways, I think we're going to wrap this up. We've kind of gone down the rabbit hole on a few things. I learned a few things. It's like the Wi-Fi dongle, it is a kind of a cool device. This is the gold standard, though, and you can do pretty much anything RNet with this. If I find out anything about VR2, I think I said earlier, I'll put it in the video description, or I'll pin a comment or something like that. It's not going to be anytime soon, but yeah. Hopefully you enjoyed. Lots of information. Hit me up down in the comments if you have questions. There is contact info there as well. And I'm going to put links to where you can buy both of these on Sunrise Medical down in the description. And the prices change and fluctuate pretty constantly. It's insane to me that these things are as expensive as they are. There is a group of people, actually several different groups, and also some individuals that have been working on, how do we say this? Building a low-cost version of this, but there are some hurdles that have not yet been able to be overcome. And now that these things are starting to be left in the dust, I don't know if it's going to happen. But Quantum, for example, now, they're moving towards using an app to program stuff and trying to phase out handheld programmers. So I think this is just kind of how things are. Yeah, anyways, again, hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next thing, whatever that may be.